Hey everyone, welcome to the Clips channel. Did you know this isn't our main channel? Yeah, you should subscribe over and find our main videos and our streams as well. We also have a podcast that you can find wherever podcasts can be found, so explore the internet. See you there. Do you think that the difficulty of the game, with the new Savage included, has scaled well? Or should it be harder than it is now in order to satisfy someone who is really ingrained?
Oh man, depends on who you ask. I mean, I love it. I think it's especially the chaotic raid. I think that's the right difficulty. I think they got just the right level of difficulty there.
So something I see common in chat is, or last week I did anyway, was they undertuned this boss. Black Cat was undertuned.
Undertuned?
But doesn't that seem like part of the ramp that was?
Kind of. I mean, so here's the thing, like this tier overall has been probably one of the easiest raid tiers, like when you take all four of them, and the clear time of the world racing teams, it was like, what was it, like 8 hours or something like that, 7 or 8 hours. They cleared everything in a single day. It was so fast that people that were scheduled to be on the casting desk, like myself included, like we had all these extra days scheduled and we didn't have to like show up. It's like, oh, it's over. And I had an afternoon slot and I thought I was going to be covering like maybe the second fight or so, but people were doing pulls in M4S and I'm like, oh my god, they're going to clear soon. Like, this is insane. So this tier has been, I'd say, a lot easier than previous tiers, which is fine. Like, but I think it makes it a bit more accessible. And there were significantly more week 1 clears, so that's another good metric. So how many statics can clear the first week, which is typically a super like difficult challenge. Like if you can get a week 1 clearer in a raid tier, like you're pretty much like hot shit. Like that's something to really brag about. Like, because that means you cleared with the crafted gear and maybe a drop or two from the Savage fight if you're lucky. So so don't get all, don't get a big head about clearing. I'm sure Chad will tell you, well, this is the easy tier, you guys. You weren't around for E8S on content. It doesn't count.
I've almost got my armor up high enough that doesn't affect me anymore, because I do feel like I've reached a point where it's like, oh, okay, it just doesn't matter what I do. Yeah. I'm always going to be told it was easier on XYZ date while Mercury was in retrograde.
But that's by design. Like that is it's supposed to be the easiest of this current expansion because it's going to get harder. While we're kind of talking about difficulty here, there was an interview from lead balance designer Mr.Ozma that came out this last week on PC Gamer. And there was a part of this which I could not translate because I'm pretty sure it just leans on previous knowledge and experiences. It says, prior to 7.0, our policy of reducing gameplay-related frustrations was sometimes taken too far, and in some cases, even the hurdles and frustrations that existed to make gameplay more engaging were eliminated, which made them less fun. With that in mind, we shifted to a design philosophy or policy of placing greater emphasis on enjoyability. This major shift took place in 7.0 and 7.1. It was a bold decision for us with a lot of unknown factors, but we're relieved to hear that people are enjoying it. The impact of this policy change will be more evident in future patches.
I see that. Yeah.
So what was removed? The article writer goes on to say bosses have their positionals once more, and recent duties like Ultimate Raid Futures rewritten are stuff with pockets of downtime. What happened? What did we gain in Dawn Trail? What did we lose? Do you understand this cryptic message to modern only players?
Gosh, there's like a couple of things. I believe that like if you had let MrOzma like kind of go nuts, I think he had extra mechanics in mind for certain bosses. But like they decided, oh, well, maybe that might be a bit too hard. I think P12S, I think they had extra stuff in mind as well. But from what I've seen, at least from Endwalker to now, is that fewer body check mechanics or like single point of failure mechanics, which can be super, super frustrating. Like P12 and I think a few others, if one person was out of position like at all, it was going to be an instant wipe and you cannot recover. So you really don't see that too much in the current tier. So yeah, the current tier, it's a little bit easier, and I think it's super fun. I think the whole tier is great. But the body checks from the previous tiers, that made things just kind of miserable at times because you can do things perfectly, but some person would be out of position and there's no chance to recover at all.
What would be the good news about positionals being back? Doesn't that make the game easier?
Positionals being back?
Because if the boss is big, they don't have positionals and the game is easier, right?
Right. Yeah, they have like those massive bosses, and they still kind of do.
I mean, Phoenix Extreme was.
Yeah, where it's like a giant like wall or something.
Torso fights, we like to call them.
I guess, I mean, that could be subjective, like getting your positionals where if you're like out of your true north, so you don't you can like position yourself so you don't like have to worry about hitting all your positionals all the time, because it can get greedy melees killed. Those are the only ones that have to worry about it. So like maybe 1 or 2 people in your raid, this is going to affect. So like everyone else doesn't really care. So I don't know. I mean, for me, I guess it's all right. I would probably be inclined to say I don't really care if they remove them. I don't think it to me, it doesn't really add any fun. And it's like, oh yeah, I can get my positionals, and if I budget my or time my true north well, then I'll be able to keep full uptime hitting everything. So I mean, I don't know what you guys think, but like, I mean, do you even play like melee roles? Because I think you guys, it's Astro and you were tanking, right? So you really haven't done the like melee.
No,
crap.
we've dabbled. Okay. Kyle quite enjoys samurai.
I've done true. I always get shit. It's the fish, snake centaur man.
Right. Well, if positionals are stopping you from clearing, that's kind of crazy. So like you could honestly just like keep hitting your buttons and missing your positionals, your flanks and rears, and you should be able to clear anything. It's probably not going to make that big of a difference. If you are failing the DPS check, something else is going on.
Oh, and True North will cover you for like a full 2 minutes straight if you.
Yeah, it can help. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
but maybe that's part of the fun. Maybe that's what they're talking about here. Is like
if you think it's fun,
but
I
don't
think it's fun.
I'm a little confused on too, but it could be that like I broke the game kind of mentality of like True North is fun because you feel like you were gonna make me do this thing. Now I'm not doing it. I'm a smart person. Your stupid game. I win, and fun is had. Fun.
Well, I thought they would actually do the whole omnidirectional thing on the bosses a lot more often this tier, because they put it in like the live letter. They're like, oh, by the way, new indicator you'll see on the boss's hitbox. It'll turn from a positional oriented boss to omni positional if it has this ring. I'm like, oh, well, cool. Maybe I don't have to burn a True North if the boss jumps partially into the wall and I can't actually get my positionals unless I have True North. So I'm like, well, that'd be nice if they did that. Then I could use positionals elsewhere, because you do run out sometimes. Like, so I was kind of hoping
more in your camp. I haven't spent a lot of time with melee. What little time I have, my initial reaction was, oh, I don't like this. And there's a entire button to negate it. Why would?
Yeah. Well,
I find that odd from how my brain thinks about game design. I'm like, if you have to put a whole button in to avoid this chore, why do we have the chore?
Right. I would just say get rid of it. I mean, we used to miss our buffs or miss like certain debuffs on the boss that you could apply based on your positional. Like ninja, like the trick attack, you had to have a rear positional. But if you were on the side, it just wouldn't get applied if you missed. So, like, sorry guys, I missed trick. I was standing to the side, or I didn't have True North.
I think it's a tough decision to make, because you make it sound like we're in a spot where it's not supremely important. So why worry about it all that much? Which makes me lean even further into the why even have it in the first place. But then you can go the other direction, which is like, okay, well, maybe we should design more importance back into it to warrant its existence. But then you're really like, for those that aren't into positionals, you're really going to push them away from that entire role.
The way the fights are designed in Final Fantasy 14, it's super annoying, like at times. I don't know if you've realized it, but basically the boss is blinking in and out of existence between mechanics. And you'll see this by the boss teleporting to the middle and turning, and then like an animation, it'll jump in, and then that instance of that boss will perform the mechanic. So it's, if the tank isn't positioning the boss like perfectly all the time, the boss will teleport back, rotate 180 degrees, and then back to recenter to look north. And that's, for some reason, it's like always right at my combo finisher. I'm like, damn it, I need true north for this. It turned, it went, and I'll yell at my tanks, because you can actually pull the boss. The way you just prevent this is if you pull the boss a little bit south of directly center in the arena, pull a bit south, because that way when it jumps up a little bit, it doesn't turn. So whenever I'm like with a group or whatever, I do like this like a record scratch. I'm like, like when the boss does that.
Oh my God.
I'm like, don't do that. I'm like, it's gonna turn. So that's just one tip that a new tank might not be aware of. But pulling the boss a little bit south of center will help your melee friends.
So, to MrOzma's, and did they name themselves that, or did they just design Ozma and everyone's like, oh my God, screw this Ozma guy, you're named that forever because we hate that fight so much?
I think, because he designed Ozma,
which was the ball, right? Or many shapes?
Yeah, that ball,
the many shapes.
Yeah, exactly. Many shapes.
What raid is that?
That's Sky Pirates, right?
Wiping City, that's the one.
Got you. We need to get back to Eureka. I want to finish Eureka.
So those two examples were ones the author gave. Do you feel like 7.0 has reduced frustration and hurdles dramatically? And do you feel like there is a new design policy in place for greater emphasis on enjoyability?
I could see that, yeah. Just from my experience in raiding and seeing this raid tier, as I think it's fun. I had a great time doing this, and I think it's a good like primer, like Savage, for people like kind of just getting started and they want to try Savage. I'm like, yeah, like you should totally do this. Like you can knock out the raid tier. And in fact, I think the third boss is probably one of the hardest ones. So if you can clear the third boss, you should be able to clear the fourth.
Interesting.
With no problem.
Well, yeah, when I think about the normals, I think of the third boss as being like the most straightforward.
Well, I guess I don't want to spoil or anything, but I guess you've done the no, you've done the normals. You've done the normals.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, there might be like P12S had all these body checks. So there's now, since there's kind of like situations like that you might see in this raid tier, but a bit more like recover friendly. So it's not going to be like, oh, if this person is out of position or out of place, it is an instant wipe no matter what. They've changed that where it's like, well, if this person is out of position, we might take extra damage, and some people might get a damage down or might get hurt, but it doesn't equal instant wipe. Everyone takes 99999 damage, because that was the really frustrating mechanics before. It's like it was, if you fail this, no matter what, instant wipe everyone dead. So I'm kind of glad that they got rid of that, especially in like Savage.
So that's the frustrations, and then
I would say, yeah.
And then when we're dealing with putting back in what they took away, when they feel like they lost engagement, they're talking about things like positionals here. So they're kind of trying to push two things at the same. They're trying to make it harder at the same time they're making it easier. But by picking and choosing what's harder and what's easier, they're going for an overall healthier design philosophy.
Right. So I guess because of maybe less obnoxious mechanics, they can they can throw in the positionals. It's like, oh well, you should be able to keep your uptime and like do all these other things. But yeah, I think it's still very subjective of like what your fun is, and because again, like the way a lot of groups are going, they have like maybe just one melee, so it's just like fun for one person in your raid. So it's like, does that really matter? And I'm like a melee main too, so it's like I don't really care as long as the fight and the mechanics are great to do, and there are some very satisfying mechanics.
I mean, that's
especially M1. M1's great too. It's so many like things for people to learn. Like you said, boss positioning, and then like tiles falling, and it's got like your clock spots, your buddies. It's got all sorts of stuff. So it's fantastic fight, really fantastic.
Yeah, it's the first time we've ever shown up to a fight. I don't even think we did this on Sphere Extreme. I think it's the first time that we showed up to a fight and dropped a mark, and we're like, all right, we're assigning clocks, we're assigning partners.
Yeah,
we're assigning. What was the other thing we had? I forget. There was one more thing, but
probably groups, light parties.
Oh yeah, light parties. Yeah, which is very normal for people that have been playing this game for a while. But even after God knows how many extremes that we did blind, like we just never really thought about it that way. And that was the little bit of pre-prep I personally did.
So you've done
because I was writing down ability names. I was like, okay, well, what's the prep for this? And they were like, do
the marker dance.
Like that first damn mechanic in M1S of nearest players baiting first and then swap out for the farthest to bait second. Was just like the first time I saw it, I'm like, this is so fast. Like, how the hell are we ever gonna react in time? And then you just do it a few times, and like Kyle mentioned, feels like an hour ago now, you build that muscle memory.
You do.
Well, there's so many aspects to that whole like learning arc, because being taught what slide casting is perfect, like that. Oh, it makes sense in MS1 because there's actually a lot of time between when the boss does the thing and you want to be down south.
There is.
But in Sphere, I'm already running, like I'm already going. I'm trying to get all the way over there. Light speed, please carry my way.
Yeah, that comes back to that interview, the interview with MrOzma, right? If they're talking about like finding places to inject a little more downtime, like I definitely felt that in M1S. Hilariously, I don't feel it in Sphere Extreme at all. I feel like that fight. Unless you consider pretty painful raid-wide damage every time there's a transition being downtime, I don't think Sphere Extreme has very much downtime.
If we were like to remove ourselves from it, it's probably the walk and talk. Like, actually, two actors are just talking to each other. There's nothing really happening, but they're going somewhere. And I think that's what Sphere had. Anytime there was downtime, the whole freaking map was changing, and you felt like there was no downtime. And so it ended up like kind of tricking you in that way.
Yeah, whereas in M1S, like there were like just those moments where it's like, okay, let's just like turn up the DPS and take a breather and think about our next positions, which was nice. I think about like fight tempo, like in terms of the design, and I think that's what MrOzma is talking about here.
I mean, honestly, the best thing to happen to my play in the last 3 months has been the red dot conspiracy, because I actually learned that I only exist below my feet. I thought I existed for all my feet.
You are a pixel.
And that's really helpful. Like, that was really nice to know.
I'm there with you, man. I've been dodging shit like crazy ever since I saw the controversy about the Pixel Perfect mod, because I had never seen it visually represented, and I still don't. I'm 100% honest when I say I do not have that mod installed. But the second I saw a photo of it, like a screenshot of it, I'm like, oh, that's it? That's my hitbox?
Yeah.
I have had...
In the same Ozma interview, they did say the word midcore content.
Right.
Do you have an opinion on midcore content?
That is entirely dependent on your definition of midcore and what people mean by that, because that gets tossed around a lot.
I haven't heard it before, but the last 3 months in my life.
To me, I would say the chaotic raid is right at the level where it should be for midcore content. So it's not ultimate. It's going to be your savage and maybe like some of your more difficult extremes. So I think, well, you guys haven't done that one, but like probably M2 and M3 and beyond would be a bit more midcore. I mean, it does. Yeah. I mean, again, depending on who you ask, maybe it has like not a whole lot of meaning, but I think it's just like some like range of difficulty that it's trying to fall under.
So it goes pretty high in most people's opinions then.
I think so.
In terms of like amount, even. We're not even like difficulty. We're just talking like there's a lot of it that is encapsulating this idea.
Right. It's going to be like, how do you get from normal content from someone who just logs in and does like their expert roulette, their rating roulette, their try roulette? How do you get them from there into in-game content? And it's that content that bridges that gap. I think that would be considered mid-core, like from normal, casual, middle, and then like maybe your fourth floor and ultimate would be like the higher end, upper echelon.
That's interesting. Yeah, because like if I had a buddy who was new to the game and they were like, "Hey, explain like easy, mid-core, and hardcore content in Final Fantasy 14 to me," the tip of the iceberg would I would just kind of go, normal, extreme, savage. I'd say normals, that's your easy stuff. That's for your casual enjoyer of Final Fantasy 14. And I'd say if you want to bump up to the next level, the mid level, I would say extreme. And then if you want to get, try hard about it, you have savage and beyond. That said, a level deeper beneath the tip of the iceberg, I know to be true that there are varying degrees of difficulty just on extremes, because we started with Shinryu. We were like, oh my God, what have we gotten ourselves into?
Yeah, Shinryu's a great one.
And then we went and did Innocence, which is hilariously easy.
Right.
Like there's a range there, and we've been told, and I believe people, I don't think I'm being gaslit, including by you, that there's a range of difficulty in Savage. We've only
absolutely.
One. But for years now, when folks have been like, hey, when are you going to do Savage? Also, when we start talking about Savage just with our community, everyone talks about how, it starts kind of entry level, but significantly more difficult than the normal version of that trial that you're aware of, or raid in this case. It's all a boss at the end of the day. And it gets harder. So, that's depends on how much time do I have to explain to somebody is where my opinion on like what is midcore. That's where that goes. It's like an elevator pitch.
Yeah, but like that, like the last floor of a raid tier, like the fourth one, that you might see like a mechanic or two that could be considered ultimate level. For instance, like there might be like one big gotcha mechanic where it's like, oh yeah, that thing, like that might be ultimate level. Like I think E8S would be a prime example. Maybe like Lights Rampant or something. Like some difficult puzzle where you could see that in an ultimate, which we do, and it's actually easier. we get Lights Rampant in the in Fru, the most recent ultimate, and it's actually easier version of Lights Rampant than we got in E8S and Savage.